Hello and welcome to Coffee with Carey. I still have the label on this cup. I got it at Target and I love it because it has a lid to keep the cat out. Not makeup, not beauty or fashion today. We're in dating advice mode and I'm here to talk about I was going to do an episode about texting etiquette, but when I looked at it more closely, I realized there are rules. We need some rules around texting. That's what we're talking about. If that's at all interesting, stick around. There are a couple different things that are getting people into trouble around texting, and I've been saying the same thing over and over to a lot of people. They want to know who should text first. Should I message him? He isn't texting. He's texting me too much. And I just thought that we should maybe talk a little bit about some of these things and what I think makes good common sense. So let's attack the first one, which would be who texts after a date. I love when somebody texts after a first date and says thank you. Thank you for a lovely evening. It was great to meet you. I don't care if it's the man or the woman who does that. I think either or both should actually do that. And now you are in texting mode. So what happens next? The number two thing showing up. Somebody is texting like all the time now. We had a date. It went well. We exchanged numbers. We said goodnight. And now he's texting me constantly. Well, maybe he's working from home. He has more time on his hands and he's thinking about you. It's a nice thing, but it can be a turnoff. So if you are a person who finds yourself with time enough to be texting throughout the day to somebody that you are just beginning to get to know, I would say the best advice based on what people are feeling who are having that happen to them is to slow your roll. Let it be mutual. Make sure that sometimes it's the other person reaching out with a text, not always you looking for a response or starting the conversation, that sometimes they're starting a little couple message back and forth. And if it's an equal give and take, I think you can also gauge then that you're on the same page and both feeling the same way. Whereas if you're constantly saying, how was your day today? It's 7 o'clock every night and they're not getting the chance to do that to you first. You're kind of not allowing them the space to give you a read and show you with actions what they're feeling. So make sure there's a give and take and that you're not overdoing it early on. The other thing that comes up a lot is she says he's not texting. How long am I supposed to wait for him to text? Do you think this means he's not interested? Maybe. Maybe he's not interested. Maybe he's not a texter. In this situation, you can throw out the first text and say hello. I don't think there are any rules about who has to initiate if you haven't spoken in a while. So if you're feeling that things went well and they said they had a nice time and texted you so that you had their number, but now you haven't heard anything, you can reach out and just say, how's it, how was your week? How's it been? You could ask them out. Wondered if you wanted to join me. I'm heading over to such and such I'm horrible at thinking of events that are imaginary. But if there's something coming up that you're going to be doing and you could use somebody to go with you, throw it out at that person. You have nothing to lose. If you enjoyed their company, ask them to accompany you to this thing you're going to do and see what they say. If they don't want to go, they're not going to. So you're going to get a good idea of whether they were not texting you because they're not interested or they're just lazy. Which brings me to my next point. Why are people so lazy? What I've seen happening lately is that I will be talking to someone and they say, yep, it was a great date. The feedback, if you recall, or perhaps it was with another matchmaker I work with, the feedback was that we both wanted to see each other again and we talked a couple times in that first week and then he just disappeared. Ghosting, right? And she wants to know what to do in this scenario. And I say, well, he said he had a good time and you said you had a good time. Where I will call them as the matchmaker and say, didn't you say you really had a nice connection with Susan? And he said, yeah. I'm like, well, have you reached out to her? Oh, I kind of got busy and lost track. And I try to remind them, and I am reminding you that if you feel a nice connection with someone, that's special. See it through. Take the initiative and get together again to see in what direction this budding romance is headed. Whether it is something that will move forward and could possibly be something great, or whether it's a friendship that just had a nice little warm connection to it. How will you know unless you see this person again? So if someone stops texting, go ahead and initiate that reach out to see if maybe they're just being lazy. And if you're the one being lazy, stop doing that and text this person and let them know you'd like to see them again. I've just been busy, but I wanted you to know that when things slow down next week, I'd love to get together. If I don't call you, make sure you call me, something like that. The next rule I have for texting etiquette, is that texting is not for a full-blown conversation. Texting is not how you get to know more about somebody. That's to be done in person or on a regular phone call. Texting is for short bursts of sharing of information, to let somebody know you're thinking of them, to make a quick plan, to align schedules, for quick give and take conversations. If you're truly trying to get to know somebody, then pick up the phone, make a phone call. Don't you remember how awesome that was, getting to know somebody new, falling for them while you'd lie in bed with your phone in the dark, talking for an hour before you fell asleep, sometimes falling asleep on the phone. Pick up the phone. I know it's like not the cool thing to do, but it's much better to hear somebody's voice as you're learning about them and getting to know them. Which brings me to my next point. Tone. Nobody can read tone in text, and it creates a lot of misunderstandings. So my suggestion here is, if you get the slightest hint that someone is misreading your tone in a text, stop texting immediately and call this person. I have seen so many people blow up a perfectly great connection that they made on a date by texting so much that one thing was said in a tone that was misread. The other person continues on the conversation on the defensive or on the offensive. My client or whoever is now on the defensive, going, no, that's not what I meant. Don't try to defend yourself in a text message. Stop, pick up the telephone, call that person and say, wait, I just needed to call for a minute because I think we were heading down a road of misunderstanding because you can't hear my tone. I was just kidding, or I meant that completely different than I think you read it. I just want to call and clarify. It's worth your time if this person might be special to you. And then lastly, a little further down the road, if you are ever talking to someone and you are arguing, this is not miscommunication. This is getting into a disagreement with someone. That's not what texting is for. People say mean things in text message that they would never say on a phone call or to someone's face. So you should make a rule for yourself to never have a disagreement in a text conversation. Have it wait, make plans to get together to discuss this like grown-ups, or jump on the telephone so that you can hear each other's tone, as I just mentioned, and have a conversation where you can hear the other person's voice, hear the emotion in their voice, know where they're truly coming from, and be able to read a little bit between the lines so you can get some context of what they're saying. Disagreements, arguments, fights should never take place in a text message. So that's it. Texting is great for making plans, changing plans, letting somebody know you're downstairs waiting for them to come jump in the car, letting someone know you've got a table at the restaurant, or asking them to check their schedule and get back to you. It's not a place for grown-up conversations based on my experience with clients. Let me know if you agree, if you disagree, part of that made sense to you, or something else you think I'm way off base. Always interested in hearing what you have to say. Leave that comment down below. I appreciate you stopping by to see what I wanted to talk about today. I hope you'll stop back, so hit that ring bell and you'll be notified every time I upload a new episode. Until that next time, thanks again and have a good one.